Hey, what's up, everybody? Tonight is subscriber night, so we're doing a game analysis with subscriber games. Please feel free to send them to me here on Twitch, or actually, better to send them to me. What am I saying? Better to send me on lichess. So if you guys need to get them to me on Twitch, you'll have to send them through Soltigo or someone on the site, or someone else that can forward to me. But actually, the only person who had problems with that was Ayesta. I haven't seen Ayesta in a while. We are live now. Some people who are shadow banned obviously have a hard time sending me games or something like that. Is it the shadow ban? Is that the reason they can't send me stuff? They don't have the power to like send chats to people because they they lost their powers of messaging or something. But if there's any reason you can't send it to me on lichess, if you're a subscriber and you have an interesting game and you want to share, then find someone on Twitch to forward it to me. So because I have two machines, and the reason I can't copy and paste something from one machine over to the other. I have Twitch on one machine and lichess on the other. That way I have two monitors, just more room to work. We are live. Acerbate, Move 11's here. Serbian Santa Claus. He's not a subscriber, but he's devoted to the stream here. Durndatch as well. What else do we got? That's it for now so far. Acerbate, thanks for the support, subscribing. So I hope that everything looks smooth. I've had some webcam problems. I don't really know what it is. I don't think it's my webcam itself, because the webcam seems to function okay with other applications like Skype and whatnot. Yeah, when I was playing online poker, I had three big monitors. I have a third monitor, actually. I can throw things up there too. But things are different now. So yeah, like a stock market. All right, we've got challenge from Nefedov. Let's start with that. Just kind of get warmed up. I was about to play a game in the Rapid Shield arena, but I didn't have quite enough time. I realized when I tried to enter the arena, there was like 17 minutes till the stream started, and I thought, well, we'll forget about it. All right, so we're playing Nefedov here. I don't know if he's actually here, because sometimes he's got to be on the train or something, and he gets disconnected. The CIA follow me. Better the CIA than the KGB. Anyway, so knight f3, we've got Nefedov, who may or may not be here. There he is. All right. I'm not warmed up. I wasn't really thinking about what to play against Nefedov particularly, but I never really played d4 against him, so it's funny. We haven't had too many Slavs or whatever he plays against d4 for some reason. Well, the other thing is that usually people who play the Slav, when I play knight f3, they'll do c6, or knight f3 or d5 followed by c6. But the funny thing about Nefedov, he's a Slav player, but when he faces the English or knight f3, he doesn't try to play the Slav, which is, he's not really devoted to the Slav, I think. He's not a true Slav devotee. But I guess we might have had one or two games over the history of all our games. Nefedov is closing in on 100 games. He's got 94. I can add flashcards. Yeah. So e6. I thought Kramnik was in the KGB. I wasn't reading the chat right there. Nefedov. We have had a game, but it's been a long time ago. The last time we played a Slav, and I think we had this discussion. Anyway, guys, tonight we had the subscriber stream. Gonna only play a couple of blitz games because lately we've had a lot of games to analyze. So this one to start with, and then a few others. Alekhine was accused that he played with I don't know the stories about. There were these Nazi rumors regarding Alekhine. I don't know. What was the deal? I don't know enough chess history like that in that depth. I just know the chess side of it. I've heard something about Alekhine seemed to like to go to Argentina too. All right, d takes c4. Alekhine. Try to pronounce it like a true Russian. D takes c4. It's Botvinnik variation. After e4, Been a while since I looked at this. I probably need something better. There was a time when I actually played the mainline Botvinnik variation with white, but it's been a very long time since I looked at that. E5, and I used to go into the main lines, but you know, the people who play that with black are usually massive theory hounds, so it's better to avoid that. The E5 variation, I think. No, bishop E2, I don't know about that. I was going to play A4. This is my standby. You know the secret side of chess history. You should write a book. But, you know, there was a strong Nazi connection to, I guess, to Argentina. A lot of them went there after the war. So, Alekhine, he loved playing in Argentina. Maybe there's a connection. Anyway, A4. But focusing on chess here, what are we talking about? All right, A4, this is the variation I've been playing for the last 20 years. And there are like 5 different ways for black to play this position. That's one of the drawbacks of playing A4. I don't remember if Nefedov ever played Queen B6, but as far as I'm concerned, I think that's maybe black's best line, but it's not to everybody's style. B4 here. This is a very rare variation. I'm not sure how good B4 is. It's very, very unusual. Basically gives me the pawn back and kind of weakens his queen side. Okay, knight to B1. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. It's subscriber stream. Just one. What is that? One syllable. 2 syllables. Scriber. 2 syllables. No, I'm not drunk. I just can't talk. Knight to B1. I guess you could also technically play knight A2 here. But that knight's, speaking of Alekhine, because he did play he did play a few games with E3 against the Slav, a totally different line. Basically, I'm talking about 5 E3 instead of bishop G5, where that knight oftentimes goes to knight A2. I tried that against Nefedov. Actually, speak of the devil. Come to think of it, what is this? Nefedov forgot his lines or something. Okay. I'm completely on my own now. Wow. I had a strange temptation to play queen to C1 for some reason. That's hardly a natural move. E5, H6. E takes S6, G takes H5. Doesn't look that good. E5, H6, bishop H4. G5, knight takes G5, H takes G5, bishop takes G5. And now it's like a Botvinnik variation in some sense, but not quite. So I don't know, it's kind of a fast time control. What am I doing after knight D2, C3? That's just... that seems very weird to me. It's also possible to play queen C1, then like C3, B takes C. I don't know, why am I drawn to this move? Maybe it's like the simplest way to get the pawn back without getting harassed with C3 or something. But I really doubt that this is white's best move. But getting kind of low on time, I don't know. Doesn't feel right to me. I have no idea where I'm at here theoretically. Extremely rare continuation by black. Should I consider no? E5? No. I chose this because it was kind of a simple approach in this fast time control. The Cardins, thanks for the 5 bits. What's up, dude? What's up? We're doing a subscriber stream today, so basically I'm doing game analysis of subscriber games and throwing in some blitz and wrap games. Tomorrow morning I have Fast Friday, so it's like an open stream where I'm basically accepting everybody's challenges in 5+3. So we may not get to any games with non-subscribers or game analysis for non-subscribers today, but it's still a very instructive stream. Here I may be losing a pawn, but gaining a friend. No, I mean, queen takes c4, queen g6, knight d2, queen takes g2, rook g1. I mean, okay, I don't know where I'm going to put my king, but this guy has no development at all there. I mean, I really gotta believe that we have good compensation if he decides to get materialistic here. We've got all the pieces developed. That looks radically wrong for black, you know, to go pawn hunting with queen g6. So c3, b takes c, knight takes c3, bishop b4. Well, this again, I'm out of all my preparations. I've played many games and many games in blitz in this opening, but never really with this. Like b4, it's like a footnote in any books that I've ever read about this variation. b4 is just like kind of, there's no games, maybe one or two, and I don't even know what's supposed to happen. But that is the problem with the move a4. It leaves black with queen b6, this move b4, that's very rare. Obviously h6, h6. Bishop b4, I faced quite a few times. What else? Bishop b4, ace, no, what did I say? Queen b6, h6. Anyways, queen f4. It's a strange move. Okay, the queen has retreat squares. We just caught Nefedov off guard, I think. He wasn't prepared for me to play a d4 opening today. You'll not be on my favorite day. Work time for you? Alright, bishop e7. So the c6 pawn is a problem. He's got these pawn weaknesses, more significant than my pawn weaknesses. So I don't think we have to do anything special here. But our advantage is, you know, it's there, but what's the plan here? What's the plan? My queen's a little weird on c4, honestly. It's pressurizing those pawns, but... Okay, black doesn't have any counterplay. That's his biggest problem. What active plan does he have? Maybe to sack the pawn. Sack the pawn on c6, I would think. Rook f c1. Another interesting move is a5, actually. Not letting him play a5. That would keep his... It would keep his pawn sort of artificially isolated on b4. But at the same time, it seems risky because I'm putting my pawn on the wrong color. But anyway, I'm getting in really ridiculous time pressure here. Let's do something rather than nothing. Tushar Kamde, thanks for showing up. I got your game. If you guys are subscribers and you want me to analyze a game, send it to me over on chess, on lichess, on chess. Yeah. See you on whatever. Spirit of Light. Spirit of Light. Wait, who's Spirit of Light? Again, that's... I forgot which subscriber Spirit of Light is. It doesn't matter. We're going to go over their game. Derndatch is not a subscriber. If we have time, we'll do that too. So Spirit. Spirit just sent me the game. We've got a game from Tushar. You sent it before. You're actually second on the list. Yeah, I think he has to sack this pawn. And I mean, I take it, and then he goes knight f6, and my pawn on c6 is kind of weird. My pawn on c6, it's a Freudian thing. My pawn on e4 is kind of weird, but we can play rook e1. This is basically what I figured. Now, black still doesn't really have any counterplay. This pawn move may have been a very strong move because that's like a free roll. You know, that pawn, if the a7 pawn falls, it's bedtime for Bonzo. You know, so he's got to deal with stuff like queen b7. Queen b7, my queen's not getting trapped. I can harass the a pawn. Everything's protected. You know, the last thing you want to do in the world here with white would be to like mindlessly play e5 or something. If you give the guy a knight on d5, it may be really hard or impossible to even ever break black's like blockade. And I just realized that on queen b7 he doesn't have rook c7, but he could sack his bishop and try to trap my queen on. You see, my queen getting trapped on a7 is rather annoying. Queen b7, rook b8, queen takes e7, then rook c7, but I could chase his queen from the diagonal, so probably even that doesn't work. Alright. Black doesn't really have much counterplay. Okay, my queen is a little bit in jeopardy. Why not just like rook c1? What's he actually threatening here? Rook b8? Yeah, I mean rook b8 might be an actual threat. Rook c1 might be a blunder. A lot of mites here. Alright, dude, step off that knight on d2. I'm weakening my king side. However, I'm not really happy with doing that, but I think I can bring my queen back on the white squares. Maybe something like here to defend my white squares. Queen g4. Then what? Yeah, this is a terrible move by Nefedov, though. I don't think he should. I don't think he should consider trading queens. Should not trade queens here. You should not trade queens here. I mean, you got some counterplay with queen g4, queen h3. You're making me. You got me in time pressure. Simplifying the position. No, still he has some counterplay now. This stupid b3 idea. Maybe he doesn't have time to do it though. a6, putting the pawn on the right color. I said not to do this, but maybe now it's time to do this because I can securely blockade. I'm not sure if this was good, but I'm really low on time. His bishop looks awful in this position. Maybe it's not that bad. Put it on e7, even d8. I just thought my knights looked better than his bishop and knight, but maybe not. Not that easy for me to make progress. Gave him a good square for his knight at d5, but I wanted to make sure my pawn on a5 stayed protected forever. Bring my king into the game. I could play h4. I guess there's no need for h4. f6 is kind of a weird move. And I really couldn't decide which way to recapture there. His moves seem kind of arbitrary. Now he just blundered. My moves get arbitrary when I have like 5 seconds or less. But reality, I mean, the reality is that, you know, he's a pawn down here, but it's not that bad for black. My engine doesn't want to play e5. But I felt like I was tied down to my e4 pawn. But maybe I should have been more patient. Just played something like king f1. I was concerned he has b3 though. You know, this move looks very dangerous with that pawn on b3. So let's see the Stockfish game evaluation. Hey Soltika, what's up, man? Thanks for being here with us. So if anybody can't send a game to me because they're shadow banned on lichess, they've lost their powers of communication. That's not my business. Send me send it to Saltigo and he can forward it to me. If you're one of the subscribers. So we made some inaccuracies. We try not to make blunders. 3 inaccuracies. Guys, I'm not going to play too many games today. We're going to do mostly game analysis. 4 inaccuracies. 23 cent upon loss. My specialty, my strong point is not making blunders. I got no mistakes, no blunders. So let's see this opening. What the heck is this B4? You see, it's a fairly rare move, but not that rare. There's 31 games. Yeah, knight b1 is correct. You could venture knight e2. I think this is mentioned somewhere in a book I saw. Even knight a2 probably playable. Tukhmakov versus Pinter Yojef. So bishop a6. Oh my god, queen c1 was like the #1 move. Recommended by Stockfish. It's possible that I actually had this filed away in my like memory somewhere, but it's so far in the back somewhere that I just thought I was making a weird move. But it's actually not only justified by my intuition, but by the #1. Yeah, queen c1. It's just, there's something Catalan-y about this position. Even though I haven't played g3, I've played like bishop g5. There's this pawn on c4. I've played a4. My knight's still on b1. This feels like an absolute Catalan move. Queen c1. The actual games here. So apparently, someone mentioned the line c3. It's not only Stockfish though. There's a lot of practice here. Quite a few strong players. Konstantin Lerner, 1986. So c3 mixes it up the most. Bishop takes a6. Like, that's interesting. No one's played that. No one had the guts to sack a piece here, or sack a pawn. They're afraid not to get their material back. That would be a new move, though, for white. Okay, guys, I'll try to get to a couple more blitz games as the stream unfolds, but I'm going to try to get to mostly our game confirmed. I am Stockfish. I think that the answer is that probably somewhere deep in my subconscious, like queen c1 was there. I just can't even consciously remember like seeing that move, because I haven't really faced it. But studying this position somewhere along the line, like 20 years ago, in some book, I probably saw that queen c1 was the move, and then had filed it away in my subconscious, and it just came out now. There's a lot in there cluttered in that subconscious. But, alright, let's go back to our game analysis. First off, Nefedov. Nefedov leading off, and leading off in the game analysis too. This is his game against me. We kind of already looked into it. Alright, we just talked about it, but not really looked into it. So this was Nefedov's game against me from the simul on Sunday. Every Sunday, including Sunday this week. I'm going to be playing a 30-30 simul usually, sometimes longer if I have the time. But this was my game against Pavel on last Sunday's simul, So here I'm black, and I played almost 100 games with him, and I'm starting to run out of things to play. I think I played this variation once before against Nefedov, and I got a good position. So I thought, okay, it's been like 6 months since the last time when I played queen b6 against him. I used to play this, but it kind of lost its surprise value at one point. I would say like maybe 10 years ago, this variation became no longer like a surprise weapon. It was basically useful from around 1998 until 2005, but from about that point, or 2006. From about that point, 10 or 11 years ago, it lost its surprise value. The Greek Grandmaster Stratios Grivas and some others have written books on this, but it's kind of a difficult variation now that it's been pretty heavily analyzed. Knight b3. knight f6, knight c3, e6. Now here Nefedov played bishop e3, but it's not automatic. The most common move is actually bishop d3. It's sort of difficult to explain the difference. I guess that, I guess somehow when you play bishop e3, maybe bishop b4 remains kind of a positional threat, because you can't very well play bishop e3 and go back to bishop d2. I remember once Michael Hoffman, a grandmaster from Germany, was kind of a player who I sparred with occasionally on blitz. He played queen e2 against me. I had a couple games in this variation. This is kind of a fun line, but bishop e3. Yeah, I think this move is solidly considered the main line, keeping the options open with the bishop on c1. And it may simply be a case of keeping your options open, keeping bishop d2 in reserve. So maybe bishop b4 isn't as good here if you've got the option to play like bishop d2. It's difficult to say, but bishop d3 is much more common. Still, there are some recent games. Kravtsev against Korobov from 2016. Okay, now I was critical when Nefedov played this move. To be perfectly honest with you guys, I thought that it looks sort of silly, but I was shocked to see that it nearly has as many games in practice as bishop d3. Normally, I expect white to play bishop d3 and just allow like bishop b4 and then go about his business. I mean, it's not even clear that bishop b4 is the best move. It's one of the ideas. I think I would probably play this line to try to double the pawns and then put the pawns on dark squares in some sense. I might have some old games where I played this, but yeah. But a3, I really thought, and I criticized Nefedov for playing this, but I'm sort of shocked here. 100 and something games that white has actually played a3, and very reasonable players. You see, like, okay, no one famous, but okay, there's one, yeah. That's actually kind of telling. Now that we look at this, guys, check out how many games there are. 153. And after 163, so 200 games almost. And the best game is like Durabayi versus Polgar. That's kind of telling, isn't it? I mean, there's nobody who's 2,700 who played this with white. The best player is like Vallejo when he was like still an IM or something. I mean, 2001, he barely gotten his GM title, and that's interesting. So, despite the fact that there's tons of games where this has been played, look at Black's score, 50% for Black. That's wins. I don't mean overall, like wins. Black against this, and d6 is an even better score. So a3, Stockfish likes it, but it has a horrible score. Why does it have a horrible score? Because the players who are playing white aren't very strong. Not because it's bad, because only weak players would play a3. Because it's just not trendy, or they didn't have Stockfish looking over their shoulder saying, hey, wait a minute, a3 is not so bad. So the people who chose a3 just weren't very strong, with the exception of the occasional Vallejo. So anyway, I think I was overly critical. a3 is not so bad. Now I played d6. There may be sharper ways for Black to play, I'm not sure. You can keep the idea of d5 in reserve, but I don't have bishop b4 anymore. a6 is possible. There was something in the back of my mind that bothered me about a6. It's probably irrelevant, but I just in the back of my mind had this feeling like, what if he goes knight a4? This probably isn't good. I always like to make sure that I have like knight d7 in time, but I can probably grab this pawn. He can do a sort of positional pawn sacrifice, but I don't think that it's really dangerous for Black, objectively. So I think in the back of my mind, that's why I didn't play a6 right away. I played d6. Obviously, it gives him options to play very aggressively here. I mean, seriously, like, I don't see anything wrong with g4, but I was sitting there during the game, like, thinking, like, is it really right to do a3 and then g4 on the next move? I mean, does that make sense? You're like apples and oranges. we're going to play a passive, like, holding move on one side, and then go berserk, like Mikhail Tal on the other side of the board. I mean, somehow, this and this just don't really, like, you know, seem particularly logical. The only player is a random Serbian or other player, probably Serbian, Lazar Markovic against Cabrillo. Alright, so anyway, g4 is interesting. f4, a6, now g4. You gotta really go for it here, Nefedov. When you play a3, don't forget to just go nuts on the other side of the board. Mubat is a slave by default. Mubat is default a slave. Alright. But I agree, it's kind of weird to go berserk on the other side after having played the quiet a3. I think this is good. And this is like critical. Here's an Alexeyev game from 2014. Hamduchi, Karatitsa, who's a really, really strong, experienced grandmaster. So there's lots of good players playing black, but who's playing white? You know, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Who are these people? But anyway, Queen f3 looks like a good move. And but I was surprised. I thought that he'll go for the standard setup, which is basically bishop d3, castles, king side. And he's just doing a weird order of moves. This is absolutely 100% standard. Like bishop d3, bishop b7, castles, king side. And then like bishop e7, this is a totally standard position. We're even going to transpose into, like, you know, more normal games here. But I was surprised when Nefedov played castles queen side. This is not his style. Nevertheless, an interesting position. Here I was reticent to move my bishop away from e6, but I guess it's not that relevant here. So I made the theoretical novelty rook b8. There's always a small chance that you could get skewered on this diagonal. But I have played positions like this in the Richter Rouser too. Yeah, Cabrillo is Serbian. I know. I was at the Serbian Chess Federation once, and I met Cabrillo while he was working with the young Ivan Isievich before he was a strong top player in your country. I met those guys 15 years ago. But anyway, rook b8 is an interesting move. Alright, I'm trying to play like b4. I didn't want to commit my bishop to here or here. So bishop d3, b4, and we let our pawn structure get broken, but we have a lot of active play. This is actually a typical Scheveningen sort of structure. And now he could play g4, but instead he plays bishop d4, threatening e5 for real. And this also lends some defensive possibilities to white's position. So I thought this was a good move. And then bishop b7. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. The engine actually suggests maybe e5, but this is a typical Scheveningen theme again. If e5, take queen g3. This is a very, very standard pinning idea in the Scheveningen Sicilian. Over the board, I didn't notice that I could play knight c6 here. This is more of a normal move. I did analyze this during the game, but I was concerned about queen takes g7 and the fact that both my pieces were hanging. So I think I basically like dropped this variation here. But the computer wants me to go further. It says rook g8, queen takes f6, pawn takes d4, and ironically, black is okay. That's sort of surprising. It looks like my king is just chilling out in the middle of the board. Like d4 is hanging. I have a very pretty dark squared bishop, but no immediate threats. But it looks like d4, knight takes d4, bishop e5, like wins a piece or something. So it's like, ouch. Don't I have bishop d4 here? Maybe he has tactics. No, he has just queen f2 going back. Anyway, if you look at this, what am I, 2 pawns down, and the engine says that I have compensation. So there were a lot of possibilities. Maybe e5 after all was good. Bishop e7, he plays this. And now I really should play e5. But again, you know, I played cautiously. No, maybe not e5. Doesn't he have like knight d5 at some point? Maybe this type of move. Again, queen g3. This is another variation. better version for white. The rook seems funny on e1, but it might have some relevance. It looks like it would be more active, like f1. But again, you see variations like this, where suddenly the rook on e1 is turning, it's turning into a very relevant factor here. So I don't know. You know, e5 looked risky because I haven't castled yet. So I just played bishop e7. He plays queen g3, and now after the game, Nefedov, Chabrilo, thanks. I didn't know that. So Chabrilo, we didn't really know him. I just met him, you know, shook his hand, and that was it. Queen g3, knight h5. This was a suggestion of Nefedov to play maybe knight h5, but I disregarded it because it's a standard Scheveningen idea here, like queen g4. If I have this move, which I looked at during the game, then it might be okay. But queen takes f4, e5. Actually, I don't recall really analyzing this. This might not be so bad, it looks like. Queen g3, pawn takes. It doesn't look all that different from the last variation, oddly. But it's a world of difference according to Stockfish. Crazy stuff here. D takes C, queen takes G, that whatever it is, H8 rook, check. But my king is just totally wide open here. His king can just hide. Even on B2. So it was risky to play knight h5. I played just this. You know, okay, if knight h5, queen g4, I can't play g6. That's the other thing. If my king was castle kingside, I would just castle, and this would be a kind of typical position. But the problem is I can't. What I failed to appreciate maybe was that I could go back to f6 here and sacrifice this pawn, Najdorf style. I really thought I'm just like, you know, getting in trouble with my king open. But according to the engine, again, black seems to have active play. I mean, this is very difficult to play in a blitz game. It looks like I'm down a pawn. I am, in fact, down a pawn. Very complicated position. So I don't know. I couldn't really bring myself to go for this. So he offered a draw here. I accepted. I was concerned, but maybe I can play e5. I mean, sorry, castles. This looks scary, but there's a general kind of idea in the Grivas. He calls it, we call it the Grivas variation. There was a funny article in New Chess Yearbook about this. There was a guy, I know this guy. It's a really asinine guy from the U.S., like a weak master, and he wrote a letter to the editor of New Chess Yearbook, and he was like criticizing Grivas for like calling this the Grivas variation or something. But Grivas just tore into him. He wrote a letter back to the editor and like tore into the guy about his stupid comments or whatever, criticizing him for calling it the Grivas variation. But anyway, Grivas wrote a book about it, and he's kind of one of the leading experts. But anyways, this is one of the standard motifs in this variation. You can actually just calmly let white play e5 and bring your knight back to e8. But this to me looks really scary, because both of these bishops are bearing down. I mean, this is why I accepted a draw when Nefedov offered a draw. Stockfish shockingly says that the position is like equal here. But visually, white's pieces are very pretty, by the way. Have you guys ever noticed the way that like pieces coordinate together? If you ever see like master players, you know, as an amateur, see master players who put their pieces in groups like this, the groups of knights, they're segregating their pieces. These players are patently like racist. No, I'm just kidding. It's seriously, no, seriously, there is a thing about these pieces, the way they coordinate together, the knights in groups, the bishops in groups, and the rooks in groups. I have noticed this. It's like the pieces coordinate very well next to each other. This is not a coincidence. But anyway, that's just a side note. I just really wanted to say that the position visually looks better for white, but actually it may not be so bad. The knight holds g7, And if he takes here, I can take back with the bishop, and according to the engine, my position is okay, but it looks odd. I mean, my knight is really on a bad square, blocking my rook on f8, and I thought that although the engine doesn't really claim much of an advantage for white here, I think objectively, practically speaking, white is better. So, coordinated pieces raise the piece value. I would think so. Soltigo said, anyone have games they'd like to send me, but they're not allowed because they're like shadow banned? Send it to Soltigo. Alright, let's go back to game analysis here. Pick another one. I've got suggestions from Haberbaum and S4. Alright. So we got a lot of games to get to. I'm only going to play like 1 or 2 more blitz games. We've got Rabbit, which means it's Tushar. Rabbit chess. This is next. This is from our Tuesday tournament. Sparkle Horse Arena, 7+2 Rapid. Rabbit chess is black. Tushar Kamde. Tushar Kamde, are you like... Who are you exactly? You're like a political figure in India? Alright. Ayesta was shadow banned. Wasn't that it? Or he just couldn't figure out what happened to himself. He's very quiet. Actually, I'm surprised by that. Someone else was shadow banned. Alright. So it's, okay, Scotch game. Bishop c5. What's up with that? This is a rare move, isn't it? You know, so we all know basically the Scotch 4 knights. Okay, it's not really the Scotch game proper, it's the Scotch 4 knights. And its reputation isn't that great. Basically, I think that most players sort of... No, wait a minute. Yeah, most players go for bishop e4, and it usually equalizes. I think the reputation here is quite good for black. Like, this line is no problem, blah, 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 black equalizes, no big deal. The line goes back to Nimzovich, and maybe even older than that, but I remember one of Nimzovich's oldest games in his practice, one of his best and oldest games, was a nice win on the white side of one of these 4 knights Scotch games, Scotch 4 knights. But not a proper Scotch with the 4 knights out. But bishop c5 is not really known to me. Okay? So I'm on my own here, guys. Actually, the score looks okay for black. You guys probably know more than me. It looks like there's one Aronian game where he lost against Kramnik in 2012. Navarra played it with black. Adams, Sargsyan. But it's dropping off quickly there. Like, you got a 2012 Aronian game, a 2012 Navarra game, a 97 Adams game. Not too often played by top players. So what's wrong with this move? Maybe there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, the fact of the matter is that bishop b4 is just good. So people don't need another move. But I guess in order to play for a win, looking for new territory here. What was that? Oh, this is apparently a move, isn't it? Have you guys seen this? Andreykin did this in 2013. I thought I saw a more recent version of this. I really thought I saw a more recent version of this. Someone playing this. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, queen e7. That's weird. f3 and d5. Maybe it was this Andreykin game that I'm thinking of. I guess it was. I don't know. For some reason, I thought there was another. I know Tushar Kende. I was just kidding. No, I thought Tushar was some kind of real person. Okay. So. But anyway, knight e4 looks weird. Looks a little crazy. Knight b3 now. And you can play either move. Bishop b6 seems more natural. Once having gone to c5, it seems strange to go bishop b4. Bishop b6. Queen e2. This is a rare line. So you got Vachier-Lagrave against Carlsen. So this is a transposition of moves. Because this line briefly has seen a little popularity. Knight b3, bishop b6, knight c3, and then knight f6. That's how we're getting to the Carlsen game. But it's usually played by that order of moves. White has been bored with the other lines, I guess, here. And so, for looking for something different, this knight b3. There was a guy at my chess club in Boston who played this variation for white for years. But, it shouldn't really be dangerous. But anyways. Alright, bishop c5, bishop b6, queen e2. And now, it looks like a5 is a really interesting move. Trying to punish the knight on b3. I constantly talk about the knights on b3, b6, g3, and g6 being badly placed. And the more I play, the more I notice that this is true. So probably a5 is really a strong line. This is the way that Carlsen played, and Malikov, and Elianov. Maybe this is the best way to go. White can play e5, then you just castle. He can't take. I guess it's just too dangerous. E takes f6. So not rook e8, bishop e3, but a4. This is crazy. And this is the Vacher versus Carlsen game. And some other games, wow. Several games. Tari has played both sides of this position against Oleksienko. Tari against Eugenio Torre. That was obviously an Olympiad game from 2016. Norway against the Philippines. a4, knight d5. Looks like just a good line for black. Vacher in dangerous territory. Bishop e3. A takes b3. Queen g4. And now g6. Well, this is all like forced. Bishop c4. This has just gone off on a tangent, guys. It looks like Carlsen and Vacher just they know what they're doing, huh? Knight takes b4, d5. And it's like a totally rare position. Like there's some questions whether they both knew this cold, or I mean, what's the deal with this? This is such a random position played in one game. No games before this actually happened. Basically perfect play. But here it looks like Vacher could have played queen g5, also queen f4. Anyway, guys, this crazy line. A5 is really aggressive. Tushar just played castles. That looks like a correct move. So this is theory 2. Bishop e3. My opinion is that looks a little artificial for white. There's something a little bit artificial about this. The knight on b3. It's kind of like playing the center attack, the center game. White has the strong pawn, in the better center, but it's also very vulnerable along the e-file. It looks like Morozevich playing 2d4, queen takes d4. Rook e8, f3. We try to strike with d5. This is absolutely critical. It looks like Duda won a game in 2016. This is a new move. There's another way that black could play, though. He could also just play more conservatively with d6. This was played by Halifman. That's like kind of admitting, though, that white has achieved like a strategic advantage with that strong pawn on e4. Admitting that you've got a little bit of work to do. So d5, but what are we going to do now? Caruana versus Naiditch. So apparently here there's two moves, bishop e6 and d4. Let's look at d4. We're not threatening to actually take the piece unless we're going to sacrifice our queen. But this looks pretty good according to the computer. Bishop f2 was Duda's choice. Man, knight g4. These guys are severely prepared. Another position that's totally never been played in a master game, and both sides know exactly what to do. King b1. Wow. Knight takes f2. Looks like Brunello knows what he's doing. Queen takes f2. And then d3. which falls off a small cliff. Okay, this is probably best play, guys. I don't know. This looks like the critical line. But Tushar here played queen e7. You could also play bishop e6. But somehow that feels awkward, like you're almost pinning yourself or something. And you're still going to end up, if you're still going to end up playing d4, maybe it would be better just to play it right away. So I guess here, Tushar just ran out of book. And then White played bishop g5. He's scared to play bishop takes. It opened up the a file. But I guess the truth of the matter is that we're just up a pawn. Pawn takes pawn. That was clearly best. So there's nothing to think about. Bombast instead played this human kind of move. Now d4, knight d5, ouch. So you could still try to bail out somehow, but how? I mean, pawn takes e4, knight takes e4, you're still in this terrible pin with the knight on f6. The Scotch needs a lot of prep. Yeah, I think for both sides. Magnus is playing really well. He was black. He also won recently. Didn't he win recently against Gawain Jones? No, that was a dragon. Why am I thinking of Gawain Jones? Okay, Gawain Jones plays the Scotch with white. I guess he lost to someone else in the Scotch. Magnus beat him in the dragon where he lost a piece and won. So, okay, this is the actual game. The black king side is compromised. But it's not so easy to get it. I get it. You could play the king to h8 and just hide. Wow, this is f5. Okay, you're on the bishop. That's simply could be a strong tactic. So white should have taken with the bishop on f6 and kept a strong knight on d5. This piece is worth a lot. Would have been much better. That's the computer variation. Okay, let's see what happens. So f5, black's got a kind of initiative. He's got queen g6. There's no problem. But it's still not 100% safe, because the black king is never going to be 100% safe here. And we still haven't gotten the white king, but we're ready to play a5, a4. I mean, this position could go down in flames in a matter of 2 moves for white at this point. We're just very, very close to that. Now, there is h4, rook h3, which concerns me a little, with the idea of rook h3, rook g3. So I think bishop d7 might be slow. What about a5, kids? White has bishop c4. Oh no. All right, that's an issue. That's a serious issue. We can't take because of mate. But bishop d7 doesn't do anything on that front either. So it looks like you have to go here first, like preparing bishop e6. Also, incidentally, stopping rook h3, which I think is one of white's only really dangerous plans here. Now the best is something like bishop d3, which still doesn't look that easy for black to deal with. Your king is not quite as safe as white's king, so I think the position is a bit easier to play for white, maybe. But still there's like a5, a4 with threats. So bishop d7 looks artificial. You're just like moving the piece for the sake of moving it. You lost time, wasted a tempo basically. Bombast, and so you sack your queen. Ah, this is fascinating. So basically a pawn, a rook, and a piece for the queen, which is perfect material balance. I mean, stopping bishop h3. We're getting the rook to h3. That's what I'm talking about, dude. The plan was h4, rook h3. I take back. That was the plan I thought would have been white's best plan with the queen on e6. So I just thought, you know, this bishop was still on f1. I didn't see bishop c4 was even possible. So I'm thinking, how can we get the rook to h3, get the rook to g3, and the queen is there. If queen, so if h4 also incidentally very useful, because if something like queen g6, we can play now h5. Now I think this plan might have been white's best. to play h4 in this position. Well, okay, he has to find a move here. But h4, to me, this is very natural. You know, you got rook h3 and over, the bishop just waits, and you've got h5, additional threat. Yeah, no, not about like rook f3, rook h3. I wasn't thinking about that. Still, he has h4 here, ironically. Probably a strong move. Maybe the other rook should actually go to f1. Black has time to defend now, and the queen sack looks totally good. You got a pawn, you know, a piece, and a rook for a queen. This is absolute material equality in anybody's game. Black really has the initiative. If you play this position, or if you show this position to a dynamic player, attacking style player, they're gonna, you know, most players are gonna prefer to have like the minor piece and the rook and the pawn, but it's very romantic, you know, to play black here. But objectively, I think we still have to say that, unfortunately, white's king is still a little safer than black's king. You know, you could see the black king getting opened up pretty fast with h4, h5, or direct mating threats with obviously queen g5, queen f6, queen g7. So it's not so easy for black. He missed this. That's really nasty. Now you have to defend. You have to defend like a genius here, it looks like. Rook e6, and things are not happy. Bishop takes c5, queen takes c5, and giving up the dark square bishop would make black's position really hard to hold together. So a reasonable queen sacrifice on the fly, but I wonder if black should have done something different here. At this point, there's no more options, but he could have played knight e5 instead. This move stops rook f3, it defends f7, it attacks the bishop on c4, and allows us to play ultimately like c5, c4. What's the deal with, what am I missing here with bishop d5? I'm crazy. So now you have c6 winning a piece, or almost winning a piece. Yeah, so Tushar, it looks like this would have been your best. Stronger than bishop e6. The queen sacrifice is fun, but it's probably still not that good for black, objectively. But he missed queen g5. One mistake, and anything could, the whole balance shifts. Now black has the initiative. There's obviously a mate threat. You got the initiative. He still didn't do a5. This move has been hanging in the position for like 100 moves now. It seems like the only way to increase your initiative here. Bishop c4. Okay, it's the time, dude. It's 3 minutes, 2 minutes. It's not a long game. I'm analyzing it like it's a long game, but it's just not. You know, it's a 7+2. But Tushar does not miss too many, you know, obvious moves. I mean, d3 with the strong pressure and tactics, he's not going to miss that. Queen g3. There's no apparent win for black. Well, the computer says that d takes c2 is really strong. What is up with that? If king takes c2, what do we have? Wow, this is crazy. Knight b4 check. There's no way in the world I would assume that black is better here. And yet, Stockfish says that black is like winning. I would have never found this. And no wonder like Tushar didn't. I mean, that's an extremely unnatural kind of line. d3 is natural, then you're like, okay, what do I do next? I don't see it. I mean, you can throw the piece out there, but I don't see an immediate threat. You know, it's a very long-winded variation. So this actually happened. And black has this knight d4 with the threat of knight e2 check, which he missed, I guess. And this is only move. Defending c2 and threatening the crushing knight e2 check. Tushar was down to... Thanks for sending this game, by the way, Tushar. It was a great battle. 2 minutes against 50 seconds. And apparently he played the second best move here, rook d4, which is credible. Not incredible, but credible. Bishop f6 and black lost on time. It's still not 100% over, but it wasn't easy anymore. You like black, to be fair. Which point? Every move I lost a piece, says Ananas. Yeah, me too. Now black is on the verge of getting mated on h8, but he still apparently has defense if he stays on the bishop, which I don't understand. What am I missing here? So rook d6, queen h4, and what? You gotta sack the... Wait, I don't get it. What am I missing here? Yeah, you gotta sack the exchange. Oh my god. Huh? Wow. So this isn't lost. Or it's not clearly lost for black. That's kind of hard to believe. Wow, bishop takes a2. King takes c2. And then rescue your bishop. How much material do we have here? 2 bishops? Wow, 2 bishops and 2 pawns for a queen. This is not so clear. So Tushar could have even put up some resistance here. There's a very, kind of straightforward plan of this, but I don't see it's even clearly a threat. So you could have resisted even here. Okay, let's play one more game with one of the subscribers. 7+3. Kind of get the energy back. Not fall asleep. Ananas. White. I feel like playing d4 today. So I would have lost a piece in every move like Ananas in that game. That was a fantastic game, man. I really appreciate when you guys send in awesome games. I mean, that was an absolutely awesome game. And Tushar lost, It's not essential that it's a game that you won. Ananas, were you the guy who did this before? Last week, I think he did the same thing. He, sends a comment into the chat room. I think he's there. So I'm like, okay, we'll play. And he's not there. Anyway, guys, William Pascal, thanks for joining me here on Twitch. I try to really have the most instructive chess stream on the internet. Do the best we can, but focus on trying to be educational. And hopefully I'm a strong enough player to be able to do that. Just barely. Ananas is not here. All right, we're going to abort the game. I'm going to play with Haberbomb, and then we'll go back to game analysis. And then maybe if Ananas is a good boy, he'll get to play again later when he re-challenges me. But there's just no time to waste, guys. We've got an hour and a half left. You had something more written in the message. What are you talking about? 94 I missed. I couldn't move, so I lost. What do you mean you couldn't move? You had no time. Can you do that for 5 to 10 minutes? What are you talking about, Tushar? He said something what? Oh, man, I'll abort the game. Let's open a new link. Just a few tips on it. Oh, can you tell about the d4 b6 opening? Alright, that's a different topic. If we have time, Tushar, I'll try to... I don't know. Well, d4 b6, it's a kind of hybrid because you're kind of talking about two different possibilities. You could have it an Owen defense after d4 b6 e4, or you could have an English defense after d4 b6 c4. I know something about the English defense. I don't know too much about the Owen's defense or Owen defense or Owens's defense. Is that beer? I think it is. Let me try it. Czech beer. Pilsner Urquell. We don't have any Czech players in the stream though, sadly. D5 Haberbohm. I think last time I tried this Queen A4 variation, but it's not it doesn't really do it for me. Let's see what Haberbaum knows in the old stuff. So Tushar, the problem is, if you play d4, b6, you got to be sure about who you're playing that against, because there were these Vietnamese players, you know, like Nguyen Ngoc Trongson and Huang Trong, and all of them were playing like d4. And for a while, I was kind of messing with them with doing like g6 on move 1, and he didn't want to do e4. But once they got their heads together and they were like, all right, we're not going to take this anymore. When he does stuff like e6 and g6, we're going to start doing e4. One day they decided to start playing like e4 against me when I tried to mess with them. When you got players who play d4, if you're going to do stuff like g6 or b6, you got to know your opponent. I mean, is this a person who's going to be willing to play e4, or are they like addicted to playing like only d4 and c4? So if you play d4 b6, you really have to take care that you're playing against someone, you know, and you know whether they're going to play e4 or c4 in that position. You got to know your opponent. I'm not a huge fan of the Owen defense. I will play it like occasionally in our Weird Wednesday streams, but my opinion is that it's just not quite active enough for black. So I really don't like to risk d4, e6. I did it against Hikaru, and he played e4 against me. You know, he didn't want to give me an English defense. That was the last time, you know, one of the last times I did that. I later wouldn't risk that against other players. But it's better. The best time to do e6 or b6, the best time to do b6 is probably against c4. You play c4, b6, then they go d4, and you can go e6. If you want to play the Owen defense, I mean, you can follow Christian Bauer. I mean, I guess he's like the foremost expert on the Owens defense, but I think that it's just not quite good enough. Tushar, d4, d4, b5. Polish defense. That's something. What are you talking about? d4, b6. He meant b6. d4, b6, c4, bishop b7. Okay, this is some form of Owen defense. Knight c3, knight f6. Well, drinking beer is you know, is age restricted, but watching people drink beer is not an age restricted activity. Rook b1, c takes d4. What are we doing? We're going to grab the pawn here, Patrick Wolf style. Patrick was like one of Anand's seconds back in like 1995, and he played blitz games against me with queen a5, check, bishop d2, queen takes a2, giving away Anand's analysis. There are so many ways, but this is one of the most popular lines, of course. Didn't Haberbaum do something weird against me, or somebody played bishop g4? We saw a very strange variation with bishop g4 not that long ago at one point. That's a normal idea a little bit later. So yesterday you played the Polish defense. Yeah, and the Polish defense, you know, I mean, it's got to have its problems. d4, b5. But I think I like it better than the Owen defense. Why do I like it better than Owen defense? Well, you can play more actively. I mean, the key to the Polish defense would be like d4, b5, e4, bishop b7, you know. But Adorian recommends going into the taking variation. Bishop takes b5, bishop takes e4. Andras has a lot of analysis in a very obscure book that I have. Knight c6, what is that? Okay, that move is totally unknown to me. You like Mark Esserman's style? What are you talking about? Are you playing the c3? The only thing that Mark Esserman is famous for is playing the c3 Mora gambit. And for withdrawing from tournaments at the last moment so that he screws people over, which is what he did last year. Very, very bad to do that, dude. Don't promise you're going to play in a round robin tournament and then withdraw a few days before the tournament starts. Very strange guy. I got to give him credit though. I never thought he was going to be that good. I never thought he would get to like close to 2,500. Knight e5. Knight e5. Yeah. Should I take that? Or just leave it there? Am I helping his bishop or helping myself? Help yourself. Don't know. Gimmicks. All right. Am I drinking beer? I think so. Yeah, I've known Esserman since he was a teenager. He didn't seem like a big talent, but he's really stuck with it. I've got to give him credit. But it's not cool what he did last year to destroy our tournament. In Balaton, he lowered the category of the tournament in the last moment by just like, oh, I don't want to go because my stomach hurts or something like that. He was having a very bad tournament at first Saturday, or lost a couple games. He withdrew in the middle of the tournament, and then bailed on this tournament a few days before it started, just because he had a tummy ache or something like that. But maybe really because he just like lost rating points and didn't want to play for a while. But it's really bad etiquette to do that. When you make the commitment to play in a round robin tournament, you gotta. It has to be like you're dying to withdraw. And he actually withdrew in the middle of the first Saturday, like when the tournament wasn't over. It's okay to bail during a lichess tournament. But he basically wrecked 2 tournaments by doing that. It's impossible to find a new player like in the last minute for an IM, or in this case a GM tournament. I mean, very difficult to find a strong player. They had to fill in for him with like a really low rated player, which lowered the category like massively. And by miraculous chance, like this guy made a GM norm in the tournament anyway, but it was extremely unlikely someone would score enough points to make a GM norm. Well, you're not going to get invited to many tournaments when you do stuff like that. King h1, but he's not on the elite level, so I guess it doesn't matter yet. But I've never withdrawn from a round robin tournament. Even when I had food poisoning, I continued to play in the one open tournament where I should have withdrawn. You know, even if he had like food poisoning, he could just like cancel a couple games and, you know, reschedule it or something. But anyway, enough venting. Here I'm just playing on autopilot, talking about people dropping out of tournaments. Now, one possibility is bishop e2. I have had good results with this structure many times. The center is strong. I can play maybe e5 here, though. If we play e5, it almost feels like black's only hope would be to play... Well, let's think about this. e5, rook d8, bishop f3. He might have bishop e6 there. Can he actually just pick my pawn off with e5, rook d8, and then bishop f3, bishop e6, triple attacking? All that matters is I can't afford to lose my d-pawn. I can't afford to lose my central pawn. So we can do bishop e2, trading off his fianchetto bishop. Or I can also do the preemptive bishop f3. Preemptive strike, preparing e5. Bishop f3, b6. He'll be coming out the other side. All right. Well, we're down to a minute as usual. I don't have enough time to to think about all the ramifications of what I'm doing here. This simplifies things. It eliminates a very nasty, powerful piece on g7. And I think that white is slightly better. Obviously, white is slightly better. I mean, my central pawns are pretty strong, but I have good results overall, winning pretty much every game I've ever played in this kind of line. I mean, this kind of line where I got the strong center. Not this line in general. I lost to Ilya Gurevich once. I've won and lost. The only game I can think of losing is against Ilya. It was a rapid tournament. Not really hanging pawns. But it's the classic question of, are the central pawns stronger? Is the central pawn majority stronger, or is the queenside pawn majority stronger? And John Watson, the American I am, an author, wrote a strategy book. I don't recall the title now. A while ago. Can I finally do e5 once upon a time? Yeah. John Watson did this strategy book. I don't remember what it's called. Maybe one of you guys knows the title of the book, but it was like a big strategy book about middle games or something, and he talks about this concept concretely, how the central pawn majority, I think it was Watson's book, the central pawn majority is stronger in the middle game, but then the theory is that when we get closer to the end game, then the queenside pawn majority becomes more relevant. And I guess that's basically the gist of it. So f5 is always like a classic undermining move. But Haberbaum here, he's putting up a lot of resistance. But I've got yeah, this looks. I was a little concerned about like him keeping me busy with bishop a4, bishop b5. But bishop c6 is, that's like wishful thinking. Wonder if I could almost take. It's funny that rook here is even like, it's even a target. But he can only capture so many times. Haberbaum's rating, is it finally going up? He's 1736 in rapid. He seems a lot stronger. Wow, e6. Oh my goodness. Pawn takes, rook takes, pawn takes. I could definitely sack an exchange. Incredibly cagey defense by black. Bishop c6 with no time. Haberbaum is like 1700 going on 2100. We really ought to have some tactics here. I don't know. He's got a kind of initiative going on with my broken pawns. Does this even make sense? I thought I had maybe e6. Totally intuitive. Just an intuitive pawn sacrifice by me. But he dropped a rook. The other way to take on would have opened up attacking chances for me against his king. If he takes the other way on f5. But I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see if this was enough. I mean, I think this was a well-played game. Was my f5 pawn sacrifice really strong or just a desperate attempt? Is this a desperate attempt or just a strong move? I think it is a strong move. I can't help being a genius. But anyway, it was a double pawn. It wasn't doing me any good, and I wanted to get everything lined up. And it looks like this is the best line. E6. So what's the conclusion? That the central pawn majority is actually stronger than the queenside pawn majority, right? These guys never did really get too active on A7 and B7. Two inaccuracies. KG defense. Yeah, it's actually good. It sounds like a boxing. It sounds like a boxing analogy or something like that. The Secrets of Modern Chess Strategy. Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Good book. Watson is a good author. So, what's the deal with this, Haberbaum? Is this an actual variation? Nah. Nobody plays knight c6. I mean, you're supposed to play queen a5 check and go pawn grabbing at this point. Someone played queen d5. That's an interesting move. But surprisingly, White responded with bishop d2. Obviously, an error in a database. Okay, guys, let's go back to game analysis. That was fun. But we have to get to these games. So, Asterbait is next. KG. I don't know where that comes from exactly. Okay, this is Acerbait's game. He was white. Okay, it's e4, e5, knight f3, d6, the Philidor defense. But I guess it would be KG, like that, with an EY. Okay, I also sometimes have played bishop c4. I think it's a perfectly good move. More often this position would be reached by like maybe bishop's opening move order. I mean, philosophically speaking, we should play d4 anytime. That's objectively the strongest move. But okay, you can play without d4. But Asterbait, was I talking to you about this or someone else on the stream this week? There was a game that was almost the same. Am I hallucinating or having like deja vu? Didn't we say exactly this? We said exactly this, that when black does a move like h6, it's our job as strong chess players to try to take advantage of a bad move. If you have to sit there and play a quiet move against h6, h6 becomes like a relevant defensive move. Bang, d4. This is the only way to play. The only way to fly. Because h6 doesn't seem relevant if this is going to become like an open position or something like that. You must play d4 here. If you don't, you risk transposing to like a normal. So it was Tushar Kamde's game. Okay, so Asterbait actually, I'm not sure if he even knew about that, or if he was watching that stream when we talked about this, but exactly. Like maybe Tushar didn't play d4 when black played h6, and I think that you're totally wrong, because you've got to punish this move h6. h6 is not a move that belongs being played in an open position. If we play d4, like it was a scotch or something like a scotch type of structure, h6 totally irrelevant. It's a loss of tempo. Yeah, and if in this kind of structure, if he takes on d4, it's absolutely bad. So d4, excellent move. Knight d7. There are often a lot of tricky lines, with tactics based on f7, but there's nothing here directly, I don't think. Although maybe you have queen d5, do you? Emanuel Lasker gives examples like this in his Lasker's Manual of Chess. It looks like you have queen d5, dude. If that's the case, then d takes e5 is strong. Yeah. Wow, so you have just d takes e5, queen d5. Why not queen d5? It's not enough. So queen d5 is not enough. He can defend primitively with the queen. And our queen ends up misplaced. No, this doesn't work. So it doesn't work. There's no direct way. We could think about c3 and maybe queen b3. That also doesn't look fast enough. But I'm not getting this. I mean, the computer is suggesting queen e7. Okay, so it wants to sacrifice a piece. D takes e5, d takes e5. Bishop takes f7 check. Okay. And this actually happened in Kostenyuk versus Skripchenko. That was a hot game. Alright, bishop takes f7 check. The hot game for the day. Wow. King takes f7. Knight takes e5. 2 pawns for a piece. It's like a... Oh man, Skripchenko's walking around. This was 2004. She was already quite a strong player. She was already a strong player 5 years before that. Or even more. Kostenyuk was relatively young still. Knight f6. King f6, sorry. Man, king f6. Some player actually won this position for black. So this is not so clear. Is it possible that Skripchenko could have played this purposely or purposefully to try to trip up Kostenyuk, knowing that it's not that clear? Okay, I'm not an expert, but man, this is, I would just call this like chaos and say it's unclear. Even Stockfish can't find. You have to find queen d4, c5. Only move apparently. Knight takes d7 check. And then king e7. You know, it's a little hard to believe that Skripchenko intentionally... I'm getting Skripchenko mixed up with someone else, actually. I was getting Skripchenko confused with a different player, Stefanova. No, I'm mixing up Skripchenko and Stefanova in my mind. Oh well, it's easy to do. I don't know. I don't really know Skripchenko too well. She was playing poker, from what I heard. She's Moldovan. Giving up chess, playing a lot of poker. But a different person from Stefanova. Okay. Anyways, knight takes d7, king e7. Is it possible that black would do something like this, knowing full well that it's like dubious? Playing like perfect moves here. Queen takes c5, check, king d7. I mean, how are there 4 games that went exactly like this? So, black winning 1 and 2 draws. It's an even score for black in this position. Could there be a perpetual? Queen b5 check, king e7. There's no draw, actually. I mean, you got to just play for a win. So, wow. Crazy stuff. King f7. Bishop e3. Maybe this is all analysis. It's possible this is all like computer analyzed. Perfect play for both sides up until this point. It's like the Cochrane Gambit in the Petrov or something. But white has 3 pawns for a piece here. So 3 pawns for a piece plus king safety is actually better for white. Anyway, Acerbate, this is beyond the scope of your game. It seems like it's probably very important, this idea, like if there's any way to open the position, we need to kind of act now. And this is a very forcing attempt to sacrifice a piece and play for the win. But not clear. Not at all clear. White is better, but not necessarily winning. So Acerbate played castles. This is a more solid move, as played by Vasilios. Knight f6, knight c3, and then we transpose back into this so-called lion's jaw Philidor, with the h6 becoming like a kind of more normal move now, this late in the opening. I don't know if I like this move. You know, it feels wrong to release the tension here for white. So, a4 is absolutely standard. Queen e2 is absolutely standard. Rook e1 is standard. You don't have to play a4 till black plays c6, though, technically. You know, so you may not want to play a4 right away, although it's most commonly played. Either queen e2 with the idea of rook d1 or rook e1, just maintaining like a kind of classical position. But I don't like this. When you exchange here, you actually improve the bishop on e7 into a better piece. The engine actually prefers knight takes e5 trading pieces. That may well be an improvement. You know, knight takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes d8 check. If bishop takes d8, then I don't think that white is really. White does not have a real advantage here. It's just surface. You know, one more piece developed in irrelevant way. So you give him that additional possibility. You know, maybe white should even play like bishop e2. This is not a silly move to play bishop e2 here, rather than fix his pawns, so to speak. Happens in the Benoni sometimes as well. Okay, so you take, he takes back with the pawn. I think this was a small concession, and then you sack the piece. Amazing. This is like really similar to the Kostyuk game, but the difference is that black can take back on e5. So maybe a hallucination. You know, Asterbait, I don't know if he was thinking he had this move, or, you know, you can't even... If you could do that, you would have this Kostyuk game, but or something like that, but you can't, so it's not sound. And I don't know what to suggest here for white. You're just a piece down without enough compensation. This doesn't really threaten anything. You know, it seems like it would be maybe better to try something like knight h4. You know, trying to get the knight into f5, or maybe queen e2. Just get to the rook to the file under the circumstances, but it's just unsound. Here he takes with check, king f8. You know, now you have a little bit more compensation. The black rook is shut out, a second pawn. So, whereas before black had like a totally winning position, now white has a couple pawns and the black king's not 100% safe. So I think that in an amateur game, pretty much anything could happen now. I know it's gotten, like, the margin for error here for black is getting very small. You don't really want to trade queens in this situation. Yeah, it looks like the best try. I was thinking about maybe queen c3. Almira is a 42-year-old lady. That's unbelievable. I remember when she was like a teenager. So queen c3. You know, I'm a vampire. I never age. Queen c3, what's wrong with that? Bishop f6, perhaps. You know, if you had one more move, like f4, you could roll. You could roll and you'd have a good position, or one more developing move, but bishop f6 really hurts queen c3. So you play queen h5, good practical move. Bishop e6. Yeah, this is just like a check for the sake of checking. You know, you really need to roll these pawns, man, because that's all you've got here. I think that all white has is that Cochrane Gambit kind of pawn phalanx, because black's f and e pawns are gone. You really want to roll these pawns down. So I think something like king h1 and f4 and rolling the pawns is your only chance to win this game. Queen f3 just blocks your attack, basically. Yeah, this was a weird move. I mean, he's just walking away. He's walking away to the white squares, and it's strange to pin yourself with bishop f7. It's just incomprehensible, you know, like winning or grabbing material in a situation where you're up a piece and your king is not safe. The last thing black should think about is like grabbing pawns. Queen takes pawn. Suddenly, hello, we got a rook on the 7th. We got some kind of practical chance. Maybe you have something better here. Can you double rooks? The problem is your rook could get trapped or not. You could double rooks, maybe. He's threatening g5, though. Threat of g5 trading queens. So the best move is like moving the queen. Moving the queen with threats of bishop e5. You really don't want to trade queens down a piece. Now he's grabbed another pawn. So that's really out of the question, I think. If I were black, I would jump at the chance to trade queens here. Can you consider taking with the F pawn? It would destroy your pawn structure. But it's like the only way to activate your pieces now. Tough call. Acerbate decides to take toward the center and maintain your structure, but it's like you've only got 2 bad pawns for the piece. You know, this is kind of a lost cause. I think it would be better to go with like pawn takes. Say you're all in. Forget about pawns and just play for like piece pressure against his king somehow. Although I don't know really realistically how it's gonna materialize. Maybe some e5, e6. But it's almost like you're trying to play for pawn structure now. It's too late, you know. He goes here. You've got a threat. This move is like comical. I would never play that move in a million years unless you paid me like $1 million. But that's actually the best move according to Stockfish. That's unreal. Funny, I would never even consider that move in my wildest dreams. It's so unnatural. But it's literally the best move. This is some time for black to find the best move, huh? Man. He's got a much higher center pawn loss than you in this game. Bishop e6, rook takes pawn. Unfortunately, he just saved his last pawn, which is kind of an important pawn. Do you have rook b8 check? Rook takes rook, bishop takes rook. Bishop d8, you might not be able to win the pawn. If you can win his a pawn, I would think you'd have some very realistic chances to draw here. So I was thinking rook b8 check, but the problem is take bishop d8. Bishop b4 is not good enough. After bishop c7, it's probably a draw. But bishop d8 saves the day. You got no way to attack the pawn on a5. That's very problematic. Rook h7, yeah, it's kind of brilliant. Well, he was threatening bishop takes g7. Now I'm just commentating how it's so awkward looking. I never would have considered it. I would have considered like rook g8, but I wouldn't have considered rook h7. And it has that lateral mobility, so it's pretty much a brilliant move, but hard to find. So unfortunately, you know, rook b8 doesn't work, and you're basically still lost. He's threatening a4. You try to physically blockade it. Nice try. You're actually threatening, I guess, like bishop c3 or bishop c7. You're really close to getting that in. Oh wow, what happened? Okay, what? Or this is best move. Oh, this variation didn't happen. This is computer analysis. Sorry guys, the computer adds its own analysis now, and I got carried away thinking that was the actual game. So Acerbate took here. Black played b6, and then e5 was played, hitting his rook on a8. Now I remember the game. Okay, so this is just hanging, and he just wins. That was fortunate, you know. I mean, but the guy showed like too much, you know, too much material like addiction. I mean, this move for me was like catastrophic. How can you play queen takes b2? You're up a piece, and your king is chilling on f8, you know, and you're just like pawn grabbing with queen takes b2. I mean, that's crazy. Black needs to try to trade queens. After g5, he would be winning. But he plays queen takes b2, rook d7, good move. Here the best was queen g3. He played rook takes c7. Now he has, instead of b6, g5. And now you win. Well, it's good you didn't miss it. Now there's no counterplay for black. And all the white pieces are working. A very beautiful move, by the way, rook f7. Excellent. Okay, guys. We've got how much time left? A little under an hour. So I wanna focus on the game analysis. Wait, Nefedov, why is Nefedov challenging me? Let me understand this. I didn't already play Nefedov. I thought I already played Nefedov. Nefedov, what are you doing? Didn't I already play you? Am I crazy? I thought Ananas was, but I want to do more game analysis. Guys, International Master William Pascal will be back tomorrow with Fast Friday. So if you don't get to play, we're not playing much Blitz and Rapid tonight, but game analysis. Please come by tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. And I'm going to play 5+3 against everybody. I did play Neffy. Yeah, Neffy's losing his mind. He's challenged me to another game. It's the Neffy show. Alright, now who's up next? We got Spirit of Light. Spirit of Light playing the black pieces. Spirit of Light, Slemon, right? You're Slemon, aren't you? Let's flip it. Ananas is back now. Wow, Spirit of Light had 2 inaccuracies, 19 cent upon loss. That's like one of my games on a good day. D4, Knight C6. He played the Mexican defense. I did this the other day on Wednesday. Were you inspired? No, this was 3 days ago. This was prior to my Wednesday stream. He's playing the Mexican defense. And White didn't play D5 though. I mean, I was thinking about this on Tuesday night. You know, I mean, it seems to me that I don't know any theory here. And it's probably a good opening to play with black. Because of this. The problem is that most people will transpose, you know, obviously to the Nimzovich defense. You know, that's probably White's best move. But in any case, like, D5 is really interesting. Of course, Bakro against Christian Bauer. Tregobov against Christian Bauer. Christian Bauer specializes in offbeat stuff, which is a good idea. You know, I think that most weaker players under 2,500 don't really know unusual openings. Tushar, what? I thought it was Slemon. Spirit of Light. Am I wrong? Spirit of Light is a subscriber, right? Slemon, it's not you? You're Haberbomb. Then who is Spirit of Light? Is Spirit of Light just like a random guy who's not a subscriber? Is that what you guys are saying? For some reason, I thought Spirit of Light was a subscriber. Spirit of Light, are you a subscriber, or am I artificially like taking your game ahead of everybody else? For some reason, it's a random dude. Okay, well anyway, then we'll go to someone else. Because I don't know how much time I have. But anyway, like while we're here, I'll just say... Yeah, I'll just say like D5 is interesting. The best move is probably E4. Anyway, Spirit of Light, I'm sorry, but I thought you were a subscriber. Let's go back to... yeah, I mean... So, Slemon is Haberbomb. For some reason, I thought Spirit of Light was a subscriber. It sounded like a subscriber. I can't keep track. Thankfully, we have enough subscribers that it's hard for me to keep track of them now. That wasn't the case in the beginning. I would do like all of you guys, Derndatch, and everyone who's not a subscriber if I had time. But first, I have to get to the subscribers. To be fair, so S4 and Haberbomb would be next. Soltigo, Asterbates game we already did, right? So one of the few games where I followed a theoretical line in the opening from S4. All right. Derndatch got a wild card today. We'll see about the time. Like last couple weeks, I have barely time to do the subscribers. I guess I spend too much time on each game, but I can't help myself. I just love analyzing, you know, chess positions. I don't get out enough, guys. That's the real problem. Okay. Mysterious Expert. Let's see, who is this guy? What do we know? Hi, everyone. I'm 9 years old. That might or might not be true. USCF rating 2100 exactly. That sounds like rounding it off. He's a member of every team. It's possible he's really 9 years old. Possible he's rounding off his rating. His blitz pretty high. Training is awfully high, so he's good tactically. Alright, that's a summation of our opponent here. Yeah, okay. Personally, I prefer knight f6, but everybody has their own cup of tea. I mean, you know, Slemon, S4 would really like, you know, he'd love this, I'm sure. You know, every variation has its drawbacks. Against this, you have to deal with the Evans Gambit, you know, and obviously against against knight f6, you have to deal with knight g5. So both ways, there's always some kind of like sharp way white can play. d6. d6 is kind of playable because white's played castles rather than, you know, a normal move. There's nothing wrong with d6. Okay, he just plays d3. I mean, white's setup is so quiet, you know, this... You could play knight a5, right? I mean, there is a theoretical argument for knight a5 here. Swatolik played it. Swatolik, the Turkey. I used to call him Turkey because he played for Turkey, even though... No, he is Turkey, right. Okay, he is from Turkey. He played for Bosnia, but he's actually Turkish. So I called him Turkey. Knight a5. But this seems like a principled move, doesn't it? In a way. It's also unprincipled, because you're leaving the center with a knight at an early stage. Mikhail Langer, another guy I know. Master. Knight a5. But bishop e5 checks c6. Damn, dude, the engine says d4 here. What? My name is what? Check this out. Now this is creative stuff, man. We've invented something new. The refutation of the Adalik variation. Bishop e5 check, c6, d4. Pawn takes pawn and bishop back to e2. Leaving black hanging out to dry on a5. Threatening to just like win the pawn back on d4 and leave black in a weird position. So what would Adalik have done? Would he have just like said, "Oh no, I'm sorry, I'll bring my knight back to c6," or bishop d7, just trading pieces? Okay, this might be like if he realized something bad was happening, you could do that. But this basically is Stockfish refuting. It's refuting the whole concept of playing knight a5. Langer played knight on bd2, believing the grandmaster. You know, damn. Both guys played knight on bd2. You could even play bishop d5 though. I mean, that's more natural. Now c6. Bishop takes f7 check. King takes f7. c3. And you're not getting your piece back. Oh no. So this was interesting. We learned a lot here. Knight a5 is just concretely a bad move. Played by 2600 Suat Adalik. Okay, well that answers that question. Knight f6, c3, we transpose back. Yeah. So s4 plays bishop e6. I think it's good. I think castles is good, and I think a6 is good. h6 looks a little luxurious to me. I'm not a big fan of the Karyakin variation, the a5, or whoever started this trend. I'm not sure who the first one was. Maybe Caruana. I don't know. Who first played this a5? I was blaming Karyakin for this. It looks ugly to me to play a5. It just looks like in all variations white is better there in that knight a5 line. And both guys like just believed their opponents and played knight on bd2. Just black isn't developed enough to get away with this wayward knight moving for the second time in the opening. Interesting stuff. But what was coolest about that variation, right, is after knight a5, like, the point is you have to find a subtle bishop d5. You can't do, you know, Kostenyuk, bishop takes f7, king takes f7, c3, because black can play knight c6 and you know, be up a piece or whatever. You have to find the subtle bishop d5, induce c6, and then do bishop takes f7, which takes a lot of, you know, it would take a lot of experience playing this kind of position. So anyways, so far I like what black's done with the place. Now he castled. Yeah, here I don't know. No clue which is better, to do a5 or a6. I think I like a6. I don't know why. But one of my students had a game in this line a few months ago. He played a5 too, I think. And I was sort of second guessing him. I don't know. It's very hard to say what's better. This feels more active. You don't like have as much spatial disadvantage. Mareko versus Ganguly. And Fedoseev against Goganov from 2016. A couple of recent games. No one in the right mind puts their knight on a7 here, obviously. Yeah, this is okay, but it's kind of like, why do we need to do that? Knight g6 is absolutely standard knight transfer. I mean, maybe next you can go bishop e6, but anyways, I guess bishop e6 isn't a bad move. Unless he can take and play d4. You know, that's the only thing that would concern me. You know, this possibility at an early stage, some kind of immediate sort of d4, but in this particular position, it's not good at all. If this were protected, black would have problems now, you know, because of d4, but I guess it just doesn't do anything. He can play here, and then knight on bd2, and then black is okay, probably. Knight g6 or something. But it looks like, technically, you're supposed to play knight g6. And another possible plan is c6, apparently. Give the bishop a retreat square. That might be relevant because, you know, you're basically playing like kind of your white, almost like you're white, and you're putting the bishop on c2 and like supporting e5. This is what Anand did in a game. I would pretty much trust anything Anand would do. Alright, in the opening stage. So here, d5. Just when you thought it was safe to come out of the water. So apparently you can go aggro and play knight f4. But I would also, like you, probably want to make a constructive developing move here. Queen d7. That would probably be what I would play. Queen d7, keeping this free to maybe play the rook to e8 or something. Because you can also play queen e7, but that's kind of asking for trouble, it seems like. If that diagonal ever opens up. Queen d7. But okay, d5. Now the question is, does the white squares, or do the white squares get weak in this kind of Joko position? You can seriously consider knight takes, but it is a kind of unpleasant pin. It's complicated. Knight e4, and then like h6, and he's maybe coming out here. Although bishop a3, rook e8 might even be good for black, ultimately. He might be putting his bishop on a bad square, just forcing you to make a constructive move. So you could have played this way too. Instead you played bishop takes, and then he does what? Why would white want to play queen c2, like losing a move? Strange move. This is a simul, I guess. White was playing a simul. But queen c2 was just like he didn't have time or something, and he had a lot of time. I don't get queen c2. Oh, he wants to like get out of the way of his c-pawn? Try to trap a piece or something? It's like a cheapo? Yeah, but now there's no c4 because of knight d4. It almost seems like he was playing for traps. Okay, knight c4. You don't need to move your bishop. I think at this point you should say, heck with it. You know, my bishop is a great piece, it's strong, but his knight, like, let's have some credit for that knight. You know, that's a very, very powerful piece. If he takes, you don't have to worry about having like bad bishop versus knight endgames anymore. You know, one of the things I don't like about a5 is the fact that you can end up in this kind of endgame where your pawn ends up on a dark square and your bishop's on a dark square, and this exact kind of structure, which would be advantageous to white in the endgame. You know, so I don't think you should be worried about him like trading on b6. That's probably a situation where you could just deal with it either way. Like, well, maybe even just taking with the pawn is simplest. So it looks like you can play like here, attacking d3, and you're perfectly fine. Or maybe just a developing move. Why don't we just build up pressure? We'll take back with the pawn here, like the white side of a Sicilian sometimes, and just barrel down the d-file and just build up all the pressure in the center. I think that you don't want to play bishop c5. Okay, he's just playing for random tactics. I don't think that the white has anything here. He could even have the worst structure, which is what happens in the game. Okay, his bishop is pretty active. You got to give it credit. It's not that bad of a piece, so it's probably equal. I'm not sure about knight b4. I mean, your knight is on a good square. It's nice to attack his queen, but it's on a good square. You're blockading, you're protecting c7. Let's just move our rook, no? What if we just play like rook e6? I mean, just solid. There is a small problem again. You know, bishop d2 and that pawn is on the color of his bishop, which I don't like about a5. This goes back a long time to the decision on move 8 to play a6 or a5, so think about it. But okay, knight b4 here. You piled up. So it was a kind of tactical maneuver. But at the end of the day, this knight is he's pretty much committed to b4. Why not rook d1 for white here? You can blast him with like c5. I don't know. For me, I don't know. The rook we can fix, but the bishop on b2, that's going to be hard to fix. Or bishop e3 is pretty ugly. Yeah, okay. It's just a draw. The honest truth is this is just a draw. Now you got some threats. Not enough though, huh? Subtle. Threatening mate in 3. That's really nasty, man. Really nasty. I'm sure he saw through that. He defends laterally. Yeah, white's still fine here. It's another one of... He didn't know how tough Saul is. This is a greedy move. Taking that pawn on d4. But black was kind of like... He had run out of ideas. Yeah, you got kind of caught with your pants down, so to speak, here. I mean... You basically run out of threats, and you didn't know what to do, so you just grabbed a pawn. But it looks like the floodgates are open now for white to get counterplay. Check here. I thought rook c7. No? Rook c7. Oh, apparently he has a defense to that. Queen e4. Okay, even the fact that he's down a pawn, this is still not a winning position for black. Your knight is bad on b4. He has a good long-range piece that can play both sides of the board. Your pawns are kind of immobilized by the pawn on a4. It's hard to even make a passed pawn. Scary moment. You're lucky you weren't lost. Yeah, I understand this is one of your typical entertaining simul games. If I were him, I would have been very happy to draw this against s4 now. Apparently black was losing to this crazy mating threat, rook g8 followed by queen takes h6. That's a beautiful theme. Rook and queen takes h6 are both mate. So you can defend. Even here you could defend. That's insane. Crazy game, man. But I'm losing my mind. You still managed to find threats. Wow. And he finally walks into something. Knight takes f3 check. You played the second best sacrifice. Knight takes f3 check with the idea of rook g5. Apparently that wins. I mean, even king h1 is possible. And you have to find a slow move, rook g5. How do you get this kind of position, man? So you did rook takes f3. That was kind of fancy. But he takes, and then you're winning. Amazing game, and the king is just out there in the middle of the attack area, and there's nothing he can do about it. Like, he's got one check, and then he resigns because of rook h1 mate. That's it. Or 3 checks. 1 check or 3. There's this guy, Fritz120. He's saying to me, I subscribe on your YouTube channel. Will you play me? He doesn't know that I'm like streaming right now on lichess or something. I should tell him like I'm streaming on Twitch right now. What's the guy? Alright. I'll tell him after the stream. Poor guy doesn't understand I'm like streaming right now. He could play me if he was watching the stream. Your coach was like Lance, though he didn't have a FIDE rating. He was 2500 level strength. Wow. So he died back in 2005. That's Tushar Kamde, but I'm watching S4's game here. This was insane, man. One of your best. A lot like your games against me. You managed to create really complex positions in your games, S4. You have a special talent for doing that. Okay, Haberbaum is up next. We'll see how much time we have left. Correspondence chess. Andreas versus Haberbaum. This was an OB game. OTB. Off-track betting. Still, I got in time trouble and blundered. Even so, I had some very interesting ideas. I think it was a fun game to play. So Haberbaum is black. No Grunfeld, because it's the c4. c4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, g3. S4, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert on the Italian game, you know, by any stretch. But I have my kind of hang-ups about a5, you know. I don't really trust that a5 idea of Karyakin. In the line where you played it, it's absolutely normal. But, you know, you've got to ask yourself and understand the differences between a6 and a5 and the resulting sort of pawn formations that are going to come out of that. Those kind of endgames. But I think the most interesting position there, okay, there was crazy complications at the end, but the most interesting position for me was like the decision as to whether, you know, you should leave your bishop on b6 and like let his strong knight capture it and take back with the pawn, you know, because I think there you may have good options in playing that kind of structure. So here, bishop g7, bishop g2, castle d3. Yeah, I mean, this is a problematic position for white. I thought about this a million times. One of my students, he likes to play like rook to b1 here. That's, you know, it's very early. Also, I did a lot of thinking about this position when I've been black in the last 20 years. Let's say white plays the King's Indian attack, you know, most commonly. Knight f3, c5, g3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, castles, and now knight c6. And white, say, does d3. In these lines, white could play the King's Indian attack with like knight d2 and e4, or he could say, no, I'm changing my mind and I'm going to play c4. Or he could play like knight c3 and do e4 and turn it into a closed Sicilian. So I've actually played, you know, I've probably even played like rook b8 here. But I'm not sure that that's a useful move in all positions. So it's kind of like you need like a waiting move that's useful against all possible setups that white could play. And there are certain setups, I think here c3 like this guy played, if he plays like c3 and d4, that could maybe cast him down on rook b8. If we think about this sort of gambit, white played a3, but look at this gambit. Like d4, e takes d, c takes d, or we could try the other variation, c takes d, and then play like e4. But in both cases, you know, bishop f4 is going to be kind of an annoying move with that rook on b8. So rook b8 ends up being irrelevant in this kind of position. That's the question. What does black do? I think the same thing exists in the game here. The same dilemma for, in this case, white. You know, what do we do? Because we know what Haberbaum is going to do. Is he going to play c6? Is he going to play, you know, d6 and e5? Is he going to play c5? So it's almost like you'd rather like see what black's going to do and declare themselves before you commit to a setup. I've actually played e3. Let's say, yeah, I mean, I've actually played stuff like e3 and after maybe c6 gone e4. I've literally done this, like lost the tempo. And I discussed this with Mark Dvoretsky in the context of the black side of this, because we worked on this particular setup against the King's Indian together. And Dvoretsky basically approved of the idea of, even with black, like losing a tempo to reach this sort of formation. So I actually used it with both colors. You can see here another creative player, Axel Bachmann, used this idea in 2010 from Paraguay. But he's quite a creative player. I don't know, rook b1, but d3 is probably a good move because you can play e4, you can play knight f3, you save rook b1 for later. But the problem with it could be that black should try something like c6, maybe c6 and d5. But if c6, white plays e4. It's even possible to play e6. Super strange idea, but check it out. It was played by Mark Hebden, Attila Grosspetter, Oscar Pano, Iturrizaga, lots of good players. You know, is e6 an interesting idea? White plays e4, and now what do? We try something super funky and go c6. Played by Iturrizaga, Kempinski, Gufeld. Playing mind games here, you know, mind games with the move order. Anyway, it's a lot of stuff that is possible, but okay, back to the game. So we transpose here to c5. Black's decision to play d6, you might consider, again, like the weird c6, but I like c5. It's basically a normal Botvinnik variation. I lost to Michael Molyar in this position with black once. a6 is standard. Rook b8 is standard. Take your pick. You might be able to play b5 as a pawn sacrifice, but I don't think you can do that with the diagonal hot like that. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways white can play this. It looks like bishop e3, a4, f4, even g4. I'm surprised no one has played. It's kind of a cross between the closed Sicilian. Hey, where is Aldisto? Because Aldisto is actually a guy who was playing this line against me here on the stream. So f4 right away. I would prefer white, you know, developing pieces, probably. But maybe you need to play a4 first and slow this stuff down on the queen side. That's what Aronian did. I don't really think I like allowing b5 so easily. But you could allow it, you know, and play like quietly with b3, probably. Even someone played b3 with the white pieces. Christina Foysor, who sadly died last year. My friend Bogdan Dan was still lamenting it. But rook b8, okay, f4, b5, and there's e5 here. So what's up with that? Are you walking into e5? You're just walking into e5. Oh, snap. Oh, no. What is going on here? I mean, I guess Haberbaum just wasn't aware of this idea, but it's very common. So Normal would be to play either knight e8, you know, taking the knight out of the threat of e5, and with the standard idea of knight c7 and b5, or you could play bishop d7, simply defending the knight on c6. You know, and it's a fully normal position. I'm always a little bit scared of f5. Maybe white's going to get some kingside attack, and I usually like to time my move order with black, oftentimes, to play knight e8. You can alternatively do knight e8 first. The idea would be to meet f4 with f5. But I noticed in practice that, okay, there's a couple games here, but I noticed in practice that a lot of really strong players didn't really fear f5. I always sort of feared f5. But I saw some games where, you know, black just allowed f5, and it's not such a big deal. So you felt inspired and you allowed e5 on purpose. And the computer says it's like sound. You got one pawn for a piece. I'm still kind of in a state of shock here. I didn't think that black would have enough for this. Wow. So that was a really good, it was a really good judgment call on your part. Because I would have actually not gone for it, thinking that like you didn't have enough compensation. I mean, he's also threatening the pawn here on e5. You know, there's that in-between move. That's maybe his best move in this position. I would have been most fearful of bishop takes e5. There's no time for bishop f1, is there? Bishop f1. Bishop pawn takes f6. Bishop takes e2. No, there is enough time. We can play bishop takes f1. Pawn takes f6. Bishop takes e2. And this is okay for white. Wow. But this doesn't seem bad for black. Looks like we have plenty. Okay, he's got two pieces for a rook, but his king doesn't have a lot of cover. Okay, this is maybe equal. Objectively about equal. He's got two pieces for rook and two pawns. That's one line, and the other line is bishop g2, which is the game. But maybe he's better off going for line A. But here I was thinking, not do bishop f1, but can we try for more with knight g4? Yeah, this is probably critical. But then he goes anyway, bishop g2, but you got 3 pawns for a piece. How many pawns for a piece do we have? Just 2 pawns for a piece. Temporarily, just 2 pawns for a piece, but we're playing for 3. King takes g2, knight takes e5. There's a third pawn under attack here. So you're going to end up likely winning the third pawn. Okay, let's see. C takes b5, A takes b5, knight f4. This is the kind of analysis you'd have to do on the fly during the game, and then evaluate this position, saying to yourself, okay, I'm down a piece, his king's kind of open, but how much ammunition do I have here? And I've only got 2 pawns for a piece. Stockfish says you got 2 pawns for a piece, plus better king safety, plus good chances to like pick off pawn number 3 on d3. So very cool move here to like queen d7 with lots of lateral threats, pressure on this frontal pawn. There's the diagonal here. Looks really nice and geometric. But at the end of the day, evaluation looks like it's still equal. Yeah, this is a cool game. Do I have time to explain that variation? Yeah, we'll see. Tushar, it's a hippopotamus kind of idea, but you're talking about hippopotamus with d5. I don't know about d5 and hippopotamus. I mean, that's very unusual. Normally, you're like breaking with c5. We only have like 15 minutes or so left, guys. Just warning you. So yeah, anyway, great judgment on this line. But after bishop g2, now you changed gears. Sort of second guessed yourself. with bishop g4. But you got to understand, I mean, this is a general kind of exchange that you want to make in this opening normally. You want to trade off his fianchettoed bishop. He's playing a fianchetto position with no fianchettoed bishop. His king is basically open. He has a weakness on the white squares, plus the fact that he's played f4. So ultimately, in this line, I mean, it's basically the same as the other line. You can get your pawn back with knight g4. We could even transpose. This is a direct transposition to the same basic position, and you have like really strong compensation. So I would probably rather be black if I had to choose, because black has the initiative. So you played bishop g4, and he's got to take this pawn. It drives your knight to a weird square, either h5 or d7, and I don't know which one is better. Queen c2 looks awful for white. It's just not really in play there at all. It's passive. Looks really lame. But you're giving up the tension. We talk about the tension a lot on the stream. This worsens your structure. You really want him to take on b5 to leave himself with like a weaker structure. By taking on c4, I think you almost like fix his structure. Maybe you're looking for bishop f5. I don't know. You had bishop f5 directly. Apparently that was possible. Then knight e4. It's complicated. Okay. So you take, he takes, and then you go knight h5. You're not really threatening anything, and you're not developing any pieces. So you could almost still argue this is almost still the opening. It's what, move 15? It's almost still the opening, and so you need to keep bringing more forces out. You're still, all the guys are on the back rank. Queen doesn't know where to go. And I don't like the fact that your queen is now, I mean, what did we achieve here? We have a strong pawn on the 4th rank, trading for that pawn on the 3rd rank. You're also essentially trading off his weak pawn on d3. That was like the pawn we could most likely win in a lot of variations with knight g4, knight e5, and all that. I think this is a very bad exchange on c4. What if you just played pawn takes pawn? I guess that's losing tempo. So it's not so easy. Knight h5 immediately, rather than exchanging on c4. I guess I would prefer to do this if you gave me a choice here. But maybe it's not a bad move. Let's see. So bishop f5 needs to be played. There was also bishop f5, which we talked about here. I don't like queen c7, but there isn't really a good square. With queen c7, you're just under direct attack. With queen c8, you kind of have some ideas on this diagonal. So it's better coordinated. Queen c7, you're getting right on d5. Now, that's the problem. Like, the queen is in the twilight zone here. He's like, go to the corner and stay there on a7, and don't come out until I tell you. You know, it's like, the queen is on punishment in the kindergarten. You have to stay on a7 and never ever come back into the game. King h2, pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, knight takes knight, pawn takes. So there's still hope here. Wow. Panic moment. I mean, this is a strong move. And it may seem like I'm just saying what Stockfish says, but I like this move on my own because it controls d5. I mean, there's a lot of pieces that can come to d5. The knight, the rook, the queen. And then secondly, it anchors like your bishop on f5, and it gives your queen a way to get into the game through e7 and h4. So I think, I see the central point that's like a strong point for white. I want to eliminate that and then get the queen back into the game. That would have been really strong. But you played this crazy g5. He just ignored it. I don't know why he can't take here. It looks fully playable. Not really sure. You know, queen c7 check, bishop f4, e5, bishop g3, and You know, e5 will block your play. Maybe queen check, bishop e5, bishop f4, bishop e5. Is that our idea? It's unclear. Actually, white has to be careful here. Damn. This is really close. So he shouldn't play bishop f4. He needs to keep b2 protected. Not an easy position to play, but you went kind of berserk with g5. The actual game, rook b1. White played very cautiously, too passively. Now he takes. You're threatening a pin. You're hitting e2. But he's got knight f4, right? Wait, knight f4, bishop takes d1, no. It looks like a strong move. Probably you missed this, as I did. It's a very unwanted surprise. I think I would have missed this. I didn't see it for some reason. I was looking at everything else. I would have seen it, I guess, but not in a blitz game. Just might have missed it. Damn, and you blundered. All right. So just a quick mention for Tushar. You know, you were talking about this opening with like d4 b6. D4 b6, c4 bishop b7. You're saying like doing g6 like you did against me. G6 e4 bishop g7. Is that what we're talking about? Like a double fianchetto? Well, you're saying knight f3. Knight c3, knight f6, knight f3. I mean, I would assume most people would play e4 here rather than knight f3. But, okay. But you talked about the idea of playing d5. I mean, yeah, if white doesn't play e4, you could turn it into a kind of delayed Grunfeld. But I don't see that happening. You know, white's going to play e4, and you're not going to be playing d5. You're going to be playing a hippopotamus. But by the way, you played a really good hippopotamus against me the other day, you know, which is really tricky. This was our game with Tushar the other day, but you're never playing d5. I mean, you're playing e6, knight e7, knight d7, and then maybe c5 at some moment. That's the normal plan. G6 and ideas of later playing d5, but I don't, you know, I don't see d5 happening, really. You know, I don't think that's the right plan. You're normally playing c5 in the hippo. You know, d5 is normally going to be like c takes d. You could try to play d5, okay, if you want to. But I don't think it's that typical of an idea. So we're running out of time. I don't know if we got games left. Derndach, there's some players who aren't subscribers. Was it Derndach? Derndach, and just have a quick look here. I have like 5 minutes left. Derndach sent in a game where he played. Let's read his comments. Non-subscriber, subscriber stream. Does Derndach have a comment? Oh, I was weaker and I succeed to draw. I was white. How to play with white. And that's at move what? Oh, I'm looking at the whole game. So move 24. Move 24. I was just joking about this variation. Okay. So there was a very interesting game in Aeroflot with queen c7, knight e2, bishop g4 between the winner, Kovalev, and Rasmus Svane. But honestly, I'm thinking that e5 is a really cool move. And it's very rarely played. There's a really neat variation here. Takes, bishop b5 check, bishop d7. And if white tries to win this pawn, black has a big initiative with castle's queenside. And I think this position might actually even be better for black. But okay, most people never took the pawn. They just play the simple position. Bishop takes, queen takes. But I think this is okay for black. It's probably not a bad way to try to equalize. Not popular, but Monica Sacco played it once. But anyway, back to the game. C4, knight f6. This is standard. Bishop f4, queen b6. Okay, so I've never played this. This wasn't really like an accredited variation for black. It was like a footnote, in the books that I learned the Caro-Kann from as like, no, it's not so good because of queen b3. So what's the deal here? It's not very exciting, but it looks like, you know, maybe Derndatch doesn't like this because he doesn't like trading queens, but it looks like a good line. It's not a real variation for black, I guess. According to Stockfish, you could play g6, which has never been tried. That is interesting. The question is the structure. How bad is the structure? And does black have enough counterplay to justify the structure or not? Knight a3. Bishop g7, knight b5, castles. And then we go for the pawn with like bishop c7. No, rook a6. So this is something. This has never been played before. Something to look at, you know, an alternative way for black to try to play. But I don't understand exchanging on b3. I mean, that goes against all the fundamental rules of queen b3, queen b6 type scenarios. You're not supposed to exchange on b3, really. The problem is that black doesn't have so many other good moves. What if he just played, you know, like e6 or something? Queen takes b6, a takes b6. Are we just losing a pawn here? Well, not really, because the bishop can get trapped with knight d7. For one thing, you know. This is another question. But anyway, let's check out the game. So queen takes b3, a takes b3, e6 is a new move, at least in these master games. It's a lot like a London system, guys. It could even be a direct transposition. You know that? Well, this is weird. I mean, queen b3 seems basically forced. This was played once. It's kind of an interesting sideline with the idea of trapping the queen with knight b5. So you could venture knight a3 as an alternative way to play with white. Damn, Shandor Shulyok. What is this guy, like a Hungarian from Ukraine or something? e5 was played. Wow, this is cool. e5, d takes e5, knight g4. Not convincing though, huh? So the e5 may be too much. Though there's d takes e5, knight e4. Attacking f2 and b2. This may be critical. So the guy put his knight on the wrong square. Probably. But it's still not clear. Knight a3 is interesting. But there's no other move. He takes, e6. This is passive. But it looks like knight h5, which is an idea I've seen a lot in these London system lines lately. My teammate from Vietnam, Hoi Min, was using kind of the same idea in some London system games recently. The knight can come back to like g7, play like e6, f6, or f6 and g6, and the knight can retreat back to g7 and pop back into the game. Not that clear. Knight h5 looks like the best move. So e6 here. Now he plays knight. Oh, maybe, but it's a little different. This is strange to go king d7. What are you actually threatening here? b4, b5? You're threatening... What exactly is white threatening? I'm not quite sure. I mean, if we do a normal move, I mean, you could play g4. But I'm not sure white actually has a concrete threat, is what I'm trying to say. You know, black could still do the like f6, g6, knight g7 type of just hang out and control a lot of good squares. So I don't think there's any easy answer to your question, Durndatch. I mean, it's just a kind of obscure line, but this looks like a weird move. Though maybe it's not so bad. Yeah, b4 here. Okay, it's just a position now. So move 24. I think this bishop is going to be very angry when it gets out. Okay, so you agreed to a draw. Yeah, but you were slightly worse by this point, probably. Your pawn on b5 is weak. He's just playing bishop d7. His bishop is actually a very strong piece. Yeah, okay. Let's take one very, very quick look at Santa Claus's game to make you... So I'm not favoring Durndatch over Santa Claus. Santa Claus was playing white against Marco somebody from Bosnia. This was played in a rapid tournament 23 hours ago. 10-0. These guys are rated almost the same. Oh, Santa Claus played f4. Wow. Reverse Dutch. Kamsky versus Golubov? Uh-oh. No, Golubev. Wait, who's Golubev? Golubev. Well, it's like probably more than one Golubev. So anyway, d3, bishop g4, knight e5. Yeah, this is a strong move. It's just a strong move, I think, for white. He allowed that. This is even more dynamic to play c4. I get the same thing in the Reti openings I play, where my pawn is back on f2. It's reverse Grunfeld type of things. But okay, it's reasonable the way you played this. It's reasonable. I don't know here. It's tempting to play even c4 maybe. This is awkward. I'd have to put the queen on c1. So I want to go c4. I don't care about the fact that the d file is... I mean, I want to enhance this bishop on g2. Hopefully he'll play d4 and just have fun with the bishop on g2. This is a lot like these King's Indian attack lines where white plays like c4 early. This is a strong move. You could also do like the creepy crawly sort of c3. That would preempt him from queen b6. So you have to choose your setup wisely. It looks like he kind of exploited you with this queen b6. And this is awkward. Now it's like, uh-oh, what did I do? I've got to carefully extricate myself from the situation. Bishop back to f2. Yeah. So, now you played c4, ironically. With a knight on d4, it almost seems like, yeah, it would be better just to kick him out. Maybe you could play even more prophylactic moves like bishop f2. Well, this looks like an interesting move to me. Just wait. Maybe we can even gain a tempo, kick him out first, and then play c4. Or is that a stupid idea? I don't know. Whew, man, there goes the structure. I don't know. I don't think you should jettison your structure here. It's very tempting, but you really need to take back with the pawn on c4. I don't like this. This is creepy. You know, you got the creepy pawn structure just for the sake of having a strong knight on c4. He missed the better square for the queen, probably there. Okay, but Santa Claus gets stronger as he gets more time pressure and complication. Heinrich Danielsen, yeah, he's a Danish grandmaster who plays the Birds opening often and pretty well. Black basically equalized here. But your bishop is still so strong that even though you have a stupid pawn structure, it's not a problem. Pushed pretty hard, and I guess he blundered now. So he should just simply take, and he's okay. No, he remains solid. I don't know why he dared to do this. This is just a silly mistake, you know, giving you like knight b6. Okay, I guess he thought he had a tactic or something. I don't know actually what tactic can he have. He gets your dark squared bishop, tries to play c4 or something. I thought I was waiting for c4. But he's yeah, actually it's the best move. I mean, he's trying to play c4. Complicated c4 a6. Wow. You could sack your queen. That's awesome. c4 a6, bishop c5, queen takes c5, rook takes c5. You know, we're going to have more queens than you in a minute. So it's no problem. Just a temporary status. Yeah. It was a sort of silly mistake by black, though. Now he's okay. White's what? Got a trick here with d5. Oh, no. So that's it. That seals him off. I mean, after d6, it's just over. Even though he gets the pawn back, this is a lost position for black, I think. Okay, he tries. Bishop takes d6. Takes. He only has 2 pawns for a piece. It's not enough. This should be game over. So Santa Claus took it down. But I don't like that recapturing with the piece on c4 there. It's ugly, but, you know, you could have played it a little more subtly, where you maybe get the knight off of d4 first, and then play c4 when his knight wasn't so strongly posted. I'm not sure. But anyway, there were lots of ways to play. I think you kind of messed it up by having to put your queen on c1. That was kind of weird. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the subscriber stream. We've got Blitz tomorrow, Fast Friday, 5+3. Thanks, everyone, for watching, for subscribing, for donating via PayPal to support the new chair, the new mouse, and just life in general. Continue from move 24. What? That wasn't our game? What are you talking about? That wasn't our game. Oh, that wasn't the game. I'm running out of time. I'm closing the stream. He wants me to insist on continue from move 24. That wasn't the game. I'm sorry. Here, rook c8. This wasn't the game. Rook a8, a6, b5, bishop takes a8. But anyway, you're just winning. I mean, there's nothing to see here. Just avert your eyes, folks. Nothing to see here. Just move along. Santa Claus wants to see like the bitter end. Just avert your eyes. It looks you're just up the exchange. It's cool. You should really be winning. Is there some critical moment? Okay, it's not that easy to win, but it should be a pretty much clear exchange up kind of scenario. He's actually getting mated. It's kind of pretty that there's no way literally to protect. There's no literal way to protect f7. No way to get the bishop back, no way to get the queen back. He's just getting mated. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow, Fast Friday, 5+3 Blitz for everybody. No favoritism toward the subscribers. But anyway, thanks for you guys for subscribing. That's why I do the stream today on Thursdays. Again, please support the stream with bits, with subscriptions here on Twitch. Please resubscribe if you've already subscribed before. Consider subscribing if you haven't before to help me keep this up. I think we've got the most destructive stream on the internet. I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Thanks again to Soltigo. I also have a stream. Thanks for reminding me. I have a stream on Sunday, guys. I'm going to be doing a Simul 3030 Simul on Sunday. So that'll be the next up after Friday. So tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. CET here. See you guys. Thanks, Move 11. I'll see you guys later. Soltigo, once again, thank you very much. Bye-bye.